Saying you're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, the second discussion about APC convention. Now, the governor, Mai Mala Buni, led caretaker extraordinary convention planning committee of the ruling All Progressives Congress has postponed the party's February 26th national convention to March 26th. Now, the CPC has instead notified the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, of its decision to conduct the zonal congresses. Now, so much trouble, really, for the ruling party to deal with ahead of the 2023 election. Now, we will be taking perspectives on this, and we have in the studio Chief Dr. Chekwas Okori, the founder of the All Progressive Grand Alliance, APGA, and also the United Progressive Party, UPP, now a chieftain of the ruling All Progressives Congress. Thank you for joining us on Daybreak this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good to have you. Well, a lot of people have always, some have argued that, well, this APC convention is dead on arrival. After all, looking at the controversies that is rocking the party, the grievances in different quarters and the likes, and that especially if you take into cognizance the fact that the CPC has made efforts to resolve some of those issues, but unsuccessful. The other time they were looking for an extension of time to be able to attend to some of the petitions that were raised, and from their consultations. So, were you expecting this?
I mean, was I expecting that should
the postponement.
The postponement?
Yes.
Yeah, to a large extent, really. Because when there are certain things that needed to be done well in advance of the earlier announced date, that was to be February this month, 26th. Those things were not done because they couldn't be done, such as zoning of the offices, party offices to the 6 geopolitical zones, which is required by both the Constitution of Nigeria and the Constitution of the party. And that not being done in good time would then mean that the aspirants who wish to contest for various party offices wouldn't know whether for their own aspirations whether they have been zoned in or zoned out. So that had to be done. Again, I want to appreciate the fact that people, generally, politics is regarded, loosely defined, as concentric circles of conspiracy. And what it means is that in a political party as big as the APC, there will be interest groups constantly conspiring to take advantage. And that becomes a situation that calls for the survey of the managers of the party, that's the leaders of, in this case, the caretaker committee. And these conspiracies have resulted in all manner of conflicts at state level, mostly at state level, now at the national level. Of course, you've seen reconciliation committees set up every now and again, and the last one being the one headed by Senator Abdullahi Adamu. So all of these things have dragged the decision on zoning and the actual implementation of the convention. And then I will also say that this caretaker committee started on a very sound note. They hit the ground running. They took the basic things that needed to be taken to ensure that the party has a reliable membership register. And that was done, and done successfully. Then all these other issues began to come in. However, I think the president has intervened, even though what he said to them may not be made public. But it is obvious that by the time he came back from Belgium, everything took shape. And that shape is what we have seen today. So a definite date has now been given. And dates also for other things that will lead to that 26th of March, such as the zonal congresses. Don't forget that APC didn't have zonal structure before now. So it's actually part of what the Constitution Review Committee has recommended. And even if these zonal congresses are held, it is the convention that will ratify it. Otherwise, it's yet to be in the constitution of the party. But it's a normal, I was surprised actually, because I wasn't there at the beginning, that this zonal structure was not there. There's no party that wouldn't have, because Nigeria already have come to terms with the reality of it.
So it looks like this is not yet a huru in terms of the issues have not been settled yet, because it looks like this will usher in another fresh controversy, don't you think so?
It wouldn't, because the convention is the highest organ of the party, and whatever decision taken at the convention level is final. If it's not contrary to the constitution of the country, you can't challenge it in court. You have seen what the courts have been telling all those rushing to court to cause one problem or the other. The courts say they are not, they lack the jurisdiction to intervene in internal party matters. So they've allowed the parties, not just APC, all political parties, to deal with their internal matters and not drag the courts into disrupting the way things are done. So now already the notice for the amendment of the convention, of the constitution of APC, as required by law, has been published in a number of Nigerian newspapers. And the period is allowed for people who may want to raise issues with any of the provisions to do so, failing which, once it is ratified at the convention, it is ratified. And every other thing done along that line also remain ratified. So I don't see any further issues coming from that particular aspect of the new introduction of a zonal structure.
Okay. Now, another very important, game changer the Nigerians are waiting for, is a signing of the electoral bill by President Muhammadu Buhari. And the presidency is saying that he has, up until March 31st, to actually sign that. Are we hopeful that he's going to sign it before that date?
Yeah, I'm quite hopeful that the president will sign before the expiration of his constitutionally guaranteed 30 days to either sign or not sign. I am hopeful because the president made certain observations, and even in the course of a television interview, added what was not an issue before him. But he thought that is the issue of consensus. It was in an interview that he said political parties should be given the option to choose whatever method they will prefer to conduct their primaries. He talked about direct and indirect primaries, and he said even consensus. I think the National Assembly took that as another demand of the president. And this is a National Assembly that is friendly and has a very robust relationship with the presidency. And so they considered it. So they included it. I think in the course of even including it, they would have had some interface with those within the presidency, including the Ministry of Justice, to be able to have a seamless passage of the bill into law. And but somehow another aspect came up that was not there before, and that was the aspect that some appointed public officers who wished to aspire for an elective office in 2023 should resign their positions in order to do so without the distraction of the administration at whatever level, from states up to the national level. And I think the president may have seen that that needed to be looked at more thoroughly, because that's quite an addition. It wasn't there before. So now that all this time has passed, which we expect that it was used for consultation, he should sign it, and I believe he will sign it, because that's the tension.
Now, do you think that some of these statements have implication on the politicking within the APC? For instance, the issue about consensus. There seemed to be, some kind of controversy around these issues of consensus. For you to have a consensus, you must be united, isn't it? And so, but we've seen divisions, factions in different quarters and the likes. What's the implication of that, on the decision of the party to toe the path of consensus?
First, let me clarify one thing. The issue of consensus, the divisions we have may not be the real problem there. The real problem that may arise, because the consensus will concern those who have purchased their forms, nomination forms to contest. And once the party has not arrived at consensus before issuing of party forms, and you allow members of the party who are aspiring for certain positions to purchase the forms, the minimum rights they will privilege for procuring forms of the party is to participate in the primary election, whether it is direct or indirect, where they will test their own popularity within the party. But if you're able to arrive at a consensus before purchase of forms, that means that if the party has agreed that it's Mr. X that will go for certain office, others may be advised not to proceed to buy their forms.
So
it did happen.
Could it be why
it has happened before.
Could it be why the convention is being dragged and delayed?
Yes, I'm sure it's part of it. It's not that it will be the only reason. Because if consensus is going to be the major obstacle, nothing stops the party from dropping it. After all, the party used direct primaries in Osun. They didn't use consensus, neither did they use indirect. So if party sees that, for instance, the presidential nomination, which is likely to be the big thing, nothing stops the party from saying that they will use the indirect primaries. And that means delegates will come to the convention to elect. And that means every person who will wish to run, especially if the ticket is thrown open to all Nigerians who are members of the APC, will be at liberty to go and purchase forms and go and test their. The party must not walk into a booby trap, because once you have collected money from people, they have paid their fees and all the other levies that are associated, you cannot under any circumstance begin to deny them their right to participate in the primaries.
All right, now the president is going to be meeting with governors today. I believe that definitely the issue of the party convention will come on board. What are your expectations? There are fears that probably the president is going to, maybe dissolve the caretaker committee or something like that.
Well, let me say, from my knowledge as a one-time party administrator for over a long time, the president has no power to dissolve the caretaker committee.
But as the leader of the party, a lot is expected from him.
Not even the constitution of the APC or the Nigerian constitution has given him that power. You see, this is the thing. The caretaker committee was set up by the NEC.
We are talking about influence now. I mean, the posture of the president, has a lot of implication on the politicking within the party.
He can influence a lot of things. For instance, I said earlier that the moment he came back from Belgium, people began to see some direction. And that direction is what we have now seen in this schedule of activities leading to a convention that has been published. I expect that this meeting will not go to the extreme level of dissolution of the caretaker committee. If that is to be considered, then the president lacks a more democratic and political way of doing that same thing you are talking about is to convene a NEC meeting and he can influence NEC to pass a motion to dissolve the NEC. To dissolve the caretaker committee. Not by the executive fiat of the president. If he does that, there will be suits all over the courts, and they are calling on why the suits will come up because the question of constitutionality will arise. The courts will now be invited to interpret the constitution of both the party and the Nigerian constitution regarding the administration of party, whether a sitting president has power to dissolve a caretaker committee. It is not an arm of government. It's not like a parastatal of government. He will not do that, but I expect this meeting to be very fruitful. The president's directive, which may not be made public, will give the governors and the leaders of the party.
So what are your expectations?
I expect
key
that
issues to be looked at?
I expect that they will agree. First, they will adopt the new dates guideline that the caretaker committee has issued. The issue of zoning will be presented to him back because that's probably why it's not been published. And I expect by this time tomorrow, the zoning of these offices will come out and due to be the outcome of today's meeting with the president. Those are the issues I expect. I don't expect the type of action you are suggesting. No, I'm expecting a directive that everybody will be happy with.
But these meetings, shouldn't they have been had much earlier? You know, it gives an indication as though the February 26th date wasn't even really a date that was really adopted and agreed to have that convention. It looks like it was just something looked like a small screen of some sort.
No, I wouldn't say that because in this kind of thing, so many things can intervene in between to make one shift. Even the electoral law has allowed it. After you have given INEC 21 days notice, for instance, and you have reason to shift the date, all you need to do is write INEC and say you're shifting, but you don't need to give another 21 days notice.
Okay.
So this is what is.
Now, by way of rounding up our discussions on this issue, are you satisfied with the performance of the caretaker committee so far in achieving, the things that they were mandated to achieve?
Yes, I am satisfied that they have shown political sagacity in dealing with very complex issues. This party is huge, and it has become even bigger after winning the 2019 election. And so interests are diverse, and those driving those interests are powerful people. So it's not an easy thing to contend with, but it's been able to weather the storm. We're now looking at a convention that will now hand over to an elected leadership and they will now live gloriously. I think in the face of all that challenges that they had to encounter along the way, they should be given kudos. They've done well.
All right. Well, then, thank you so much for coming on Daybreak this morning. We would like to have you again on the program.
It's my pleasure.
Yes.